This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Elkin? This is Steven, your host with Phantology Podcast. I have my lifelong friends, Ben and Josh, on, and we're doing yet another Brandon Sanderson book. This the latest of his secret projects and latest release. Overall, Isles of the Emberdark came out a month ago now. So,
Yeah.
A little
probably
late.
a little
Well,
late, but relevant.
I think that it came out for Kickstarters a couple, maybe like a week before. So I think it came out for Kickstarters in July, like July 1st or something. And then I think it came out for everybody else like a week after that. Is that true? Oh,
I know it came out on
I'm
Audible a little bit later, but I'm not sure if that was just a delay for Audible or if it came out that much later for everyone. I'm not sure.
okay.
Yeah, go check if you're interested because I know there was definitely like a Kickstarter's got it first and it was tied to I believe it was tied to the Words of
Secret.
Radiance leather-bound
Yeah, kind of
Kickstarter.
random. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're interested in any of these details, please go check them. But if you're actually interested in the book review, we can probably do a little bit better on that front.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm excited for this book review. It's been a minute since I've done a book review with Fantology, so I'm excited.
Yeah, Ben's got a bit of an excuse for the last few months studying for the bar, which
Yep.
is now in the rearview mirror. So you're once again fully contributed to your full-time career at Fantology.
Sorry, yeah, I can stop. I know reprioritize my life right now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that once the bar is done, then nothing else will take up your time after that. So
No,
good to go, right?
good to go.
Cool. So let's jump in. I mean, we can talk about characters and plot and stuff, but I think we start just kind of high level, and we're gonna do full spoilers. And honestly, by nature of even talking about this book, I think there's gonna be a lot of Cosmere spoilers. So, be aware of that. I don't think we're gonna try too hard to avoid really like spoiling anything. So you should probably have read the Cosmere up to this point. And honestly, I think that's gonna be the case for like all of Brandon's future releases. Like he may
Everything
not
going forward, yeah.
explicitly tell you everything that happened in previous books, but there's going to be so many crossovers yeah, the gloves are off as he said, and like it's all full Cosmere, and so you really have to be up to date.
Do you
Yeah.
think, well, that's a good discussion point. Like, do you think you need to have read everything in order? Because I don't think you need to have read. Really, I think this works as a standalone book just fine. Um, and it's enhanced by other things. But
I think I need to have read everything because like
yeah, I agree.
I need to know like that's like who I am. But if you just like pick up, yeah, sure, you could probably pick it up and just read it. It would be fine.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think that you are going to get some things spoiled for you. But I don't know how it's so weird with stuff like this because it's like if something gets spoiled like hundreds of years in the future, like in the timeline, you know what I mean? Like how much it's hard to know how much of the spoiler that is, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
I
I
think
don't
the best
know.
example is the Thydakar reveal in
Yeah,
Rhythm of War, which could be a massive spoiler if you haven't read Mistborn. But if you haven't read Mistborn, you also don't even care. Like my dad hasn't read Mistborn. He's only read the Stormlight books of Brandon's, and he knows he doesn't understand everything. He's fine with that. I was trying to like tell him how important this reveal was, and he's like, "Who is that character? Like the Ghostbud leader? Yeah, okay, like whatever."
yeah. I think that there's going to be a lot of that in this book. Like they'll talk about, oh, this is the only person that's held two shards, and it's like that would be that's kind of a spoiler, but like also, if you haven't read Mistborn, you wouldn't really care. And then maybe if you hadn't, and then you go back and read Mistborn after that, like you probably wouldn't
hmm
remember that line because it's like a pretty kind of like a throwaway line, So I just don't know. It's kind of tricky. I think it's like comic readers and comics have probably dealt so much more with this of like spoiling previous issues from like long ago. And I'm not really in that world, but it feels like that's going to be more of a comparison as opposed to almost any other book series that I really know of.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Steven's right. You're at the point where either you kind of have committed to this and you've read everything up to the point, or you don't care and it's not. But like honestly, who's reading Emberdark that hasn't read everything? Like I know a lot of people like start with Tress, but like this doesn't seem like a book that I would really recommend first for anybody. You know what I mean? Because it does deal so heavily
Yeah,
with the Cosmere.
but like if you just saw it, if somebody just happened to see it in a library or on their, like on a bookshelf at Barnes and Noble and it's like, oh, that is a cool cover. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just I think that they wouldn't miss out on they're still getting 80%, 80 to 90%, I would
Yeah,
say.
they're still getting like 95% probably. There's
Hmm.
not that
Yeah.
many. But yeah.
Um
This would be an
the
interesting question to ask Brandon. Like, Brandon, what percentage of your readership do you consider hardcore, have read everything, and like, do you tailor your writing of projects like Isles of the Emberdark or the next Mistborn trilogy? Like, how tailored is that to different groups? Because I'm sure he tries to capture the widest audience possible
Yeah.
in science fiction fantasy, but it's not quite
He's
as
starting to paint
approachable
himself into
as
a corner.
his.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got like
so
his Sanderson group at this
Well,
point.
so I think he's doing a good job with it. Like, I think another good comparison is both like Star Wars and Marvel, where I'm kind of to the point with Star Wars where like if a show comes out that I really want to watch, then I'll watch it, but I've missed like I have not been keeping up, I think since like Mandalorian season 2 or I watched the Obi-Wan show. Yeah, I think after the Obi-Wan show is when I checked
Hmm.
out. So like if a project comes out that is like really good, then I'll probably watch it. And just like if something gets spoiled for me along the way, then like I'm kind of like, oh well. Or like and kind of like the MCU, like so kind of a fun little side story. I took Liam with me to go see Fantastic Four and it was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed the movie and everything. But I think with like Liam and introducing him to the MCU, I'm just gonna like bring him with me to like the new movies, and if they're like if I feel like they're age appropriate, like I talked to one of my friends that went and saw it, and he was like, yeah, there's really not a lot that that my son wouldn't be able to handle, and um, so like so as like new MCU movies come out that I think would be fine for Liam or shows, like I'll probably just throw him in the deep end. And yeah, things are gonna get spoiled for him, but like I'd rather have him have the theatrical experience and like the hype and stuff. I think that's more important for me
Yeah.
introducing him to it than it is like
Hmm.
maybe minor spoilers. Yeah.
But I think what Steven's question, like Sanderson for sure knows how many, well, he probably has a very good idea of how many people like Ember Dark is their first time ever like Sanderson introduction. Like he probably has a rough like, and I wonder if that's 1% or 10%. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be much more than that, but I think that would be interesting. I also I just like from a real world gut check, I think that a lot of people are probably in the case of Steven's dad of only reading Stormlight. I talked to a random person at my daughter's swim practice, and I saw that he was reading a Wind and Truth, and I was like, oh, that's excited, great book, huh? And he's like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, have you read any of the other Cosmere? He's like, the Cosmere. I'm like, what? You know? But so I think that
Wait,
there
he
are
doesn't even know the word. The
no,
word
he
gets used a
didn't even
lot.
know that it is used a lot, but I don't think it's used in terms of like what he should be reading. It's maybe like if I was like, oh,
Uh-huh.
I like used it as a character would in world, he might have understood, but still, like the
Uh-huh.
guy's like
Sure,
a
sure.
he's like a high school teacher, and he just has read a lot of science fiction mainly growing up, and he's just had this. So anyway, I think that there's and I think that the Stormlight Archive in particular is like because it's the magnum opus and a lot of people are just like if you're going to read anything you should read this. I think that that's going to be pretty common or the most common thing that people read
Yeah,
in
and
the
just like
conversation.
if you look up a list of best science fiction fantasy, the Stormlight Archive is usually in the top
Yeah.
5 or 10 or whatever, whereas like Mistborn usually isn't. So yeah, I get that.
Yep.
Josh, the Star Wars Marvel comparison, I think that's another topic. I'm not sure if we want to get into that or if we want to talk about any specifics from the book first.
We can get into this
Yeah, I think
this
people have heard
I kind of
the Marvel comparison
yeah,
enough,
I
you
kind
know.
of right along with the yeah, I kind
Well,
of talked about it enough, unless you want to add anything to it. But
I just feel like this book, okay, we'll transition this into talking about specifics of the book because I have some reasons why. But I feel like this book like really gets us into science fiction. I feel like it's more science fiction than fantasy.
Mm,
And
that's a hot
it's
take.
maybe so, but I think for a long time Brandon has been writing science fiction that's disguised as fantasy. And I think this book, like more than anything else, is like this is science fiction, in my opinion.
You think so? Like, okay, like you
Set
compare it to like
science fiction set in
Hyperion.
a well, Hyperion is sci-fi.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hy-
Like this feels more like
in a
Hyperion.
mythical world, you know.
Okay.
Well, Hyperion is very, I mean, Hyperion is sci-fi that's much more,
there's
what's the
like
word?
hard sci-fi versus soft sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Bobaverse is sci-fi. Project Hail Mary is sci-fi. Like, so there's obviously a big range, and
Big
I don't know,
swaths.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, I should probably think more about like what the actual difference is. But just reading it, I just felt like this was different than
Hmm.
the a lot of the Sanderson I've read before. It just felt more. And maybe it was, I think probably most of it was the technology that was used that was just on the nose. Like, this is now technology. We know that it's magically based because we've seen like all of the magical principles that have led us to the point where it's being used as technology. But now it's like technology in a way that we
Yeah.
understand technology today.
I do think that's true. It's not like people wrestling with the fact, oh, how are we going to make like things fly like they would in Rhythm of War or something. But I think that the whole kind of one of the main themes of the book is the clash of like technology with like the old ways. And so I think that half the book is what you described is more sci-fi, and half the book is like a guy in his boat, like that's just making his way through the Emberdark. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so
that's
I think
fair.
that there is like this, uh, uh, you know, comparison here, dichotomy of science fiction and fantasy. And I think that I think I mostly paid more attention to the fantastical elements of it than I did the sci-fi elements of it. But that might just be
It,
because I like that part of the story more.
it's I feel like it is going to be interesting because Sanderson has always written harder, like what I would define as like harder fantasy, where like there's a hard magic system in almost all of his books. Like what would you I think most people would describe as a hard magic system compared to
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, which would be like a softer magic system. But I feel like when we transition to sci-fi, it's going to be more of like a soft sci-fi system because it's based on kind of magic. So like there might not be as many limitations as you would get in something like the Bobiverse, where a lot of it
Yeah.
is overcoming, or I haven't read Project Hail Mary, but I have read The Martian, where like a lot of the fun sci-fi things is like how to grow potatoes or whatever, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or
Right.
so it'll be interesting how he handles that, because I just
It,
don't see him getting bogged down in kind of scientific details.
I mean, he did with
but he
Rhythm of
has
War
though.
though.
He's
Yeah.
gotten bogged down in scientific detail, like to varying amounts. Some people
I
loved it, some people didn't like it as much,
Yeah,
but
but scientific details in okay, I'm just gonna say that like there was more pages than a lot of people would like in a fantasy book devoted to it, but like a third of the book or something in like Project Hail or in The Martian is like devoted to that. Like it is the book. You know what I mean? Versus Sanderson, it's like a chapter in the book. Is like in Miss War Era 2 or in what the Rhythm or
Rhythm War is probably Rhythm of
Rhythm
War
was
is probably what
was
you're
the
thinking
biggest
of, yeah.
one. Yeah. Like it's like a few chapters in the book, and that's mostly to get to like one big breakthrough in the magic system that like kind of defines all of the magic system, like a nuclear bomb being made. Sorry, spoilers for like Mistborn Era 2, but that's like kind of like, and it's just like a chapter is basically devoted to now they have nuclear power in the Cosmere, you know? And so like for me, that's kind of a big difference. It's like one chapter in one
Mm.
series, and now we have nuclear power in the Cosmere. And that's a pretty big difference between most science fiction, I would say.
I do think it's a little unprecedented. And maybe if you guys have any examples or if listeners have any examples, let me know. A little unprecedented to have a series, if you call the Cosmere one series, that's so expansive that you've seen it from the beginning. of where like the magic is being developed, and then we've taken the magic and we've made it like really hard magic. We put all these rules around it, and now we've gone a step further and said, okay, this magic exists. There's all these rules around it. It's as real as anything that you experience on Earth, and therefore we're going to build all this technology stuff around it and progress all these cultures, civilizations on a natural path because they had the magic and therefore they used the magic in the same way that we've used the principles of science here on Earth. Like that's pretty cool. And I can't think of any like great examples of other series that have done that much.
Kind of, yeah, kind of like Hyperion a little bit. You get that sense throughout some of the stories in Hyperion, I feel like,
I mean, I'm not saying that there's no other stories that,
that
but to
do,
like this, to
yeah,
this
to
extent,
this
to this
extent.
like level of detail in developing all that, where it really does feel like it all works because it all follows the rules that have been set up over pages and pages and pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that is the unique promise that Sanderson is offering, right? Like that is the thing that he's selling, and it's yet to see if people really are going to buy it. And I think that we all have. We've bought into that. Um, but that was his whole like Mistborn, the trilogy of trilogies that go across space epics. Like that was the thing that like his big brainchild vision for what he set out to do. And I think
Yeah.
combine that with like the MCU-ness of it, right? But like that was, I think, the thing that the special sauce that he created.
Yeah, I agree. I do remember my mind kind of being blown. When was it? I feel like we're sometime around circa 2014 or something where he announced that there was going to be a Mistborn trilogy set in the space age or set in like faster than light travel availability and stuff like that.
Mm.
I remember being kind of blown away that I was going to go that far. So yeah, but it was, I don't know if it was from like, 2009 or 10 when we first started reading the books. I don't think that they had that he had really talked openly about back then.
Yeah, I think he's talked about how he's like been had to be a little careful about like this is always what he wanted to do, but it's kind of a hard sell at first. He had to establish himself, and he kind of snuck things in for a while, and then he started slowly expanding. And so he's accomplished what he's thus far. He's accomplished what he wanted to all along. So well done. But okay, as we get into the book, I'll just say for all that we talked about how, unique and interesting all of what has been done here and kind of what Emberdark represents in getting us into like the far future, I didn't really love this book.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I struggled with coming up with a rating. I think I settled on like 6.5. It was between like a 6.5 and 7 out of 10. So I would say liked but didn't love as well. Um, so that's about where I settled on it as well.
I love this book. I would rate it. I
All
I
right.
don't know. I think I liked it more than any of the previous secret projects. I
Really?
loved I always loved just the Six of the Dusk as the novella.
Mhm.
Um I remember when he came out with the little scene of Dusk the like interacting with the ones above a few years ago as
Mhm.
like I think he and I've just been stoked for the book. And I really
Okay,
think
you
that
remember that? He did a
yeah,
reading from
yeah.
that, yeah,
Oh
years ago.
yeah.
Okay.
And I was like stoked from like that point on. And
Uh-huh.
not only that, but like I think that I just love the theme of the progress and like the inevitability of change and one man trying to fight to make a difference and not be like consumed by the tides of progress and stuff. Like there's a lot of really compelling themes in this book that I thought meshed really well together. And I think the contrast between Starling and Dusk was really fun to explore. Kind of like this happy-go-lucky young girl who kind of grows a bit more, not bitter, but like a bit more nuanced throughout the book, compared to like this grumpy old man that kind of grows to be a little bit more compassionate and hopeful. I think that like those two arcs really contrasted well. And so yeah, for those reasons, I really enjoyed the book.
Yeah, I really enjoyed reading it. I feel like I've been reading such serious books lately from like I read did the whole Greenbone saga and then The Devils, which isn't super serious, but it's a little bit darker. And then I've been doing live ship traders, and I love, I love Robin Hobb. There's not a ton of joy in her books, like they're not grimdark, but they're just not super happy. So reading this, it
Hmm.
was just kind of like it felt like a little bit more like a poolside read of like, oh, I can just kind of enjoy the story of this book a little bit more without, and like you said, Ben, like the themes are good, but it just was a little bit like an easier read. But maybe just coming comparing it to those other books, which are all really, really well done and well reviewed. Like it just didn't feel as dense, maybe is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I got the sense it was kind of popcorn reading in a sense of it was very, very approachable as most of Sanderson's writing is. I think my issue was I just felt like the pacing of the whole story was kind of like cobbled together. Like there was the whole, that there was the prologue with Starling, and then there was the long part where we reintroduced Six of the Dusk and kind of recapped on the novella, which I needed because it had been a long time since the novella. So, it had to go there. And then like it was introduce Starling, bring them together, and then they're on the small island for like the last 40%, and then we're kind of done. And I don't know, something about that. I had a hard time like really getting into it. Like it was very herky jerky for me, and I never really like settled in. Just,
Yeah, I think that's kind of demonstrated through the crew, Starling's crew, like just stuff like that. Like I felt like I wanted to love the crew like a Firefly type crew, and we just didn't get to spend a ton of time with them. So it felt like the story wanted you to care a lot about them because it was so pivotal to Starling's like growth and arc and everything. But like we didn't really spend much time with them. Um, so it's hard for me to like really care, like when there's thoughts that the Horde, whose name I'm blanking on,
Chrysalis.
Chrysalis was gonna die. I'm like, oh, that's sad. But it was more like, oh, I'm feeling sad about this because I'm told that I should feel sad about this. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. The crew piece did kind of feel lacking to me, especially when it was like the beginning of the book and Starling was just kind of going around and like like having her one on one, like with each character and trying to fix their problem. Like it did feel kind of forced and like the plot was driving the book a little bit too much for my liking there. Um, and then yeah, and they didn't really have the best personalities. Yeah, so I do feel like that there was trying to be like a found family element to this book that didn't really um come through that well. Yeah.
did you get any Skyward vibes with the crew? Because I did. I felt like Starling and Spensa were kind of similar vibes, and then the whole, sci-fi crew of the ship element to it was I felt, yeah, I felt like I was kind of reading another installment there.
Yeah, I mean that does I could see that. And maybe if I had thought about that when I was reading the book, it might have kind of ruined it for me. I thought it was just more of like I actually had like Star Wars and like the um Millennium Falcon in my head as I was reading it. So maybe that improved
Mm.
my reading experience.
I think I would have liked imagining that better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like if the found family aspect would have worked better for me, that it would have been bumped up like a whole point. You know what I mean? Like from like a 6.5 to like a 7.5. Because I really did enjoy Dusk. I enjoyed Dusk's story a lot and his coming to terms with everything and
Hmm.
him being trying to find a place in the new world and I thought that that was all really well done. So I can't. Yeah, I feel like that was like an 8, and then Starling was like a 5. So like I don't know really know how to weight that. So yeah,
I did think it was super cool though, Starling, like her arc with like the manacles and her having to strengthen the manacles in order to help free the
Yeah,
crew.
I thought that was the best part of the book.
Yeah. I mean, there's just really like, again, there's, I think things we take for granted in any Sanderson book, like with that level of like kind of everything coming together. And then Dusk trying to navigate through the tunnel and having the investiture show up, like the traps from Patchy and stuff, like all that, again, I thought worked super well. And for me, it's like, having read the short story whatever 15 years ago now, 10 years ago or whatever, whenever it came out, to kind of see that come full circle is just really
Mm.
like a satisfying uh way to handle it.
What did you guys think about the setting primarily in Shadesmar? I mean, obviously some that was happening on the first of the sun planet,
And also a
but
little bit of spiritual realm. Can't forget the spiritual realm
yeah,
now.
yeah, the little dragon shores. But we learned a lot more about Shadesmar. More, I mean, some kind of now basic knowledge of, the I think we knew before that the distance was super wide because that's how people perceived it. And like the faster than light travel stuff, like the whole political setting of this like modern era of the Cosmere was kind of introduced
yeah,
Well,
in this
and
story.
not only that, but the reason why there's like the it's like an ocean of beads in off of Roshar
Yeah,
is because
yeah,
that's how they like envision it and stuff like
yeah, that's cool.
that was all introduced. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, again, so it did have some like heavy lifting to do with like establishing all like the Scadril and the Rosharans as like the two dominant players. Um, and I think that it did really well with kind of just having that be background information that's kind of fed through Dusk as he's discovering it. I think that worked pretty well.
We also have two books now where the modern era Scadrians are kind of dirtbags.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's not like the. I don't know. It's tough because we're seeing
freaking
it through.
Malwish,
Yeah, yeah. The Malish are not cool people, but we're seeing it through Dusk. But like
they
it's not.
colonialized.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like both. I mean, it's not like the what's their faces the Stormlight, the Rosharans are much better, like a little bit, but yeah, they're both you know trying to exploit them.
What
So
did you think about uh Hoyd's story this time being about the Knights Radiant that he used to
Mhm.
inspire Starling? That was super cool, I thought.
Yeah, yeah, that like makes sense that he would think back to that for his story.
Yeah, but
I,
it's just super cool like to see like Hoyd, I don't know. You're like discovering Hoyd's next story or whatever along with him. That was cool.
I
And
was maybe
and Hoyd
hoping
and
for
wife, holy crap. Did you guys catch that?
what's
yeah,
that?
I was hoping for Hoyd's story to have more of like a cool tie
Yeah,
into
he's
like a
just
big re reveal or
stuck in
something.
a safe or whatever.
Some little nugget for second half of
Well,
Stormlight, but yeah, the biggest thing was that he is married, but he's like, what was it? He's estranged from his wife, or
that they're not
his
on
wife?
speaking terms right now because she can't remember
Yeah.
being his wife. Do we think that's
Okay.
Yasna?
Uh,
I was
I don't
wondering.
know because they kind of they're like breaking up in the fifth book.
Okay. I guess they're never gonna get back together now. Like,
But it seemed like it seemed like she realized that they were like not good together, like in a pretty
I know.
definitive way.
No, I know, but like there's still 5 more books here. I don't think we've seen the last of Wit and Yasna. But and
I
then
just feel like Yasna's personality is such like if she makes a decision, she's gonna stick to the decision, and
yeah, that's true.
she's not gonna be like in and out of a relationship. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's just cold-hearted, sever it. But and then he said if you see the twins, will you let them I mean, it seems like Josh and I are going to get some representation coming up.
Finally.
Yeah, yeah, we need more twin representation for sure.
Exactly. But no, I think I was pretty pumped to hear that. It felt like the meme, like Leonardo DiCaprio, like sitting on his couch, like pointing at the TV screen whenever stuff like that would come up, you know?
Yeah. So with these, and there were a few other, also like, do you know who Nas is? The Shade that, so he's the guy he's like the map maker through all of the previous Cosmere
Oh,
books. So this
mhm.
guy's like a longtime world hopper, been wandering around.
Wow, and became a shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I didn't put that together. I recognize Chris coming up. I thought that Chris was going to be the person that was on World that like um made contact with Dusk, but I was not correct
Mm.
on that. Like it was just a random soldier or what, or like military investigator. But I think there is something to be said that this, I think timeline wise, is the like furthest into the Cosmere that we ventured. I have a little timeline here, and it seems like it's picking up almost like 100 years after Yumi, which is um like almost 100 years after Sunlit Man.
Well, okay, on this diagram, there's even years. I didn't know we had Cosmere
I
years there.
mean,
I'm sure Brandon does, but I didn't know this was like readily
this
available.
is yeah, this is thanks to um what's uh Elastigirl.
Coppermine?
Wait, no, well this uh, I'm looking
Elastigirl.
at I'm looking at a Reddit post from
Okay.
uh Elastigirl on the our Cosmere from 9 days ago. So
Yeah. I'm not going to doubt it too much because I know there's way more information than, we just scratched the surface in our
yeah,
knowledge even, but okay. I mean, I was thinking it was like pretty comparable to Sunlit Man and Yumi.
yeah,
I guess Tress is up there too. But yeah, because we saw Crow and it talks about how like the Aether is the stuff that's now like powering faster than light travel, right?
yeah,
So yeah, lots of tie-ins with all these secret projects.
yeah. Wait, was Crow from a different secret project?
Yeah, from Tress.
Oh,
She's the captain and the dragon.
holy cow.
Zexus, whatever. Also in Tress.
Man, I remember there being a dragon trust. I gotta reread some trust now.
Hmm. Yeah. Maybe he felt like, I wonder if a lot of the impetus in writing these secret projects was like he really wanted to get a move on with the modern era and he needed some way like a way to naturally introduce like a lot of new concepts without just like jamming it into the mainline Stormlight and Mistborn books, which is probably a
Yeah.
good decision.
Yeah, that's what I feel like too. He just kind of needed, I think he needed to start defining things a little bit, you know? I'm sure he's probably had like a lot of things bouncing around his head, and I think he probably just wanted to start getting things down on paper, you know?
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but like I feel like him writing because he's in the middle of writing the third Mistborn era right
Yeah.
now. And so I feel like this is maybe helping him kind of figure that all out too, how technology is going to work
Hmm.
and how
So,
far he wants to go with it.
so okay, this is kind of zooming out a little bit, and I guess we've already given spoiler warnings, but are we supposed to know like what the two sides of this battle? Because they keep saying like two sides. And I guess it would be like, I think I mean, obviously the Rosharans and Skadrians don't really like each other very much. But like, are they the ones at war, or is it like forces of Odium at war with them that we just haven't
Dude,
Yeah,
really seen?
Odium, I mean,
But
I guess we don't need to spoil everything, but I was going
yeah,
to say
let's
something
not
about
let's not
Odium anyway.
let's not
Yeah, okay, we can
spoil
leave
that
that
too
for now.
much. I think Josh, from what I gathered, they're not like actively at war with each other. They're more just trying to expand. Like this is the
they explicitly mentioned like a war, like war in the
No, but I think
Cosmere.
it's more of like a Cold War situation where they're both trying to expand and colonize and gain, um, you know, key territories and key access to investiture. Maybe there's been like some skirmishes or whatever, but I think that mostly it's been trying to like position yourself in the Cosmere.
Okay, fair
That's the
enough.
vibe I get too.
Yeah, okay.
I'm I wonder if it's like Scadrial versus Roshar straight up, or Scadrial plus Scadrial, whatever the state of shards is, right? Like each side is going to have some shards that are like quote unquote on their side, you know? So is it Scadrial plus shards versus Roshar
Yeah.
plus shards, or is it just like some big mix of, antagonistic odium level shards mixed in there with opportunistic bits of each civilization. Like that's the vibe I get. Like
So,
I think Brandon's a good
so,
enough writer where he's really going to mix all of
do,
these elements
so
together.
I guess are we thinking that there's going to be like going back to the MCU, like a Civil War type movie of like kind of Roshar and Skadrians fighting each other for like a few like a series, like maybe Miss Era 3 would be like that. Well, I think that's supposed to be more down or four. I don't know. Like and then Dragon Steel is going to be the one where like all the shards fight each other and it's much more like good versus evil. I don't know what are you guys' predictions? There's probably people that figured this out, but
Well, Dragonsteel is supposed to be like the beginning of everything
yeah, but
series.
yeah, I think it'll be both though, is my kind of thought. You don't think that it's going to be, is
I think
there
that
has
might
to be,
just cover the shattering.
I
maybe,
assume it's going to cover the shattering in a way that's like, mind-blowing as to the current, like the nature of the current conflict or something.
Yeah. Kind of
but
explains. Yeah.
I thought that was going to be the last series he kind of wrote though, right?
No, I think that's Mistborn.
Oh, is that going to be Miss Mistborn?
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember what the order
Okay.
in these is. It does seem like the last series he writes should be the furthest in the timeline for a, big
Yeah.
bow on everything.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, what about the whole ambition shard? We kind of learned some stuff about that, about how ambition was kind of splintered or shattered or whatever by odium, right? And that's kind of the remnants of ambition are what are making up this little corner of the Cosmere.
You're talking about the Threnody, what did they call them?
Like all the little islands and stuff, or planets. Constellation.
Well, yeah, so Ambition was killed like back in the day. That happened on Threnody or like in the Threnodite system. That's Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. And then there's a name for like the mindless, like the thing that the oh geez, I'm not remembering any of my
Isn't
terms. The the thing that the Dekwara was, like they had a name for it, right? Like just like the pure
Like
energy.
type one invested thing or
Yeah.
whatever.
And
Yeah.
they had a name for it in the book anyway. But yeah, I mean that I don't think that was new information, but I mean it's definitely important information.
Yeah. Yeah, I think hopefully a lot of that comes more into focus with how he writes the series, and it's a little bit easier to understand because right now I feel like you almost have to be a lore master for a lot of these things. But
Hmm. Yeah, that's my concern a little bit. I mean, there was also like the autonomy avatar. It looks like we lost Ben, but we'll kind of wrap up anyway.
uh,
Um,
oh yeah,
yeah,
lore, lore.
okay. We will finish up, Josh and I. Anyway, yeah, the autonomy avatar was essentially what was Dusk thought was Pat G, and that was another thing, and that's gonna be important for Mistborn Era 3, right? Because autonomy, if I remember right, autonomy and Trell are like kind of one and the same. I think Trell is just another avatar. That
Yeah,
was all like info dumped on us in that one chapter in the Lost Metal.
yeah, yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. But I guess
Um,
just to tie a bow around like the reasons why I didn't like it quite as much. I know I feel like I've hammered on this a little bit, but I don't want to be too negative, but I feel like in reading this book, it was a very similar experience to watching like a mid-level Marvel movie or TV show where I'm watching it. I don't really care what's happening too much, but anytime there's something that seems important for the larger story, I'm like, then I'm the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. like, okay, that's important right there. I don't really care about too much of anything else, but like, okay, like there we go. And so that's my concern. And like, I need Mistborn Era 3 to be better than this. Like
I
I need to
agree.
be able to
Yeah.
like get into Mistborn Era 3 for the sake of reading Mistborn Era 3 and enjoying the story, not for just wanting to know what happens in the next, Cosmere relevant thing. Like and I guess it's fair, like if we call this a side secret project TV show level, maybe we're not expecting this to be amazing, but Mistborn Era 3 is a Marvel movie, it's a tentpole and it needs to be really good.
I 100% agree with that. But with the difference being that I'm okay. I don't mind at all having mid-level projects like this with rounding out the Cosmere, like with stuff that is skippable, that is kind of popcorn, like that that you can read and enjoy and adds a little bit, but if you skip it, you're totally fine. I kind of like that. And so I'm okay with that, but I totally agree that we do need a little bit more out of the Temple series. Like we do need more out of Mistborn. And hopefully Sanderson can bring that home and kind of do what Marvel it seems like Marvel is doing with recognizing that it needs more quality over just quantity, you know?
Hmm.
And it's just so frustrating to me because I feel like I've talked about this like ad nauseum, but people don't realize that Marvel put out a lot of things like during the mid to like 2010s. Like they put out uh like Cloak and Dagger and like all these like TV shows that were just okay, but because they weren't on like Disney Plus, they were on like
Agents of
ABC.
Shield.
Yeah, yeah, Agents of Shield, yeah, and like but a bunch of those type of shows like Cloak and they had anyway. Legion was actually really good, but they had like all these shows that like didn't really tie in, but kind of did. Then they had other Netflix ones that were really really good. But like what I mean,
Hmm.
like but then when they brought everything to Disney Plus, everything felt like it needed to be like the best quality versus when it was on like ABC. It wasn't ABC. They changed that marketing to be, I don't know. I forgot what they changed that channel to. It used to be like ABC, but then they changed the channel name to something else. But yeah, but like it didn't need to be Freeform. Was it Freeform that they changed it to? Anyway, everything didn't seem like it needed to be the best thing ever. And so I feel like Sanderson either needs to figure out a way to market it, like how Marvel used to market it, of like, oh, these are just kind of like little side stories that are with some characters that we have the rights to,
Hmm.
or make everything really, really good. But like doing
Yeah.
the Disney Plus strategy of making everything seem like it is going to be really, really good didn't really work out for the last couple of years with
Mm.
Marvel.
Freeform is the channel where you can watch a 2.5 Harry Potter movie in 5 hours because of the number of commercials.
Yeah, but that's what
That's
that no,
that's
but
all I
that's
know about Freeform.
yeah, but that's what they I think because that used to be like ABC, like the man, I'm forgetting back my
It's
cable.
fine. I just had to
Yeah,
sneak that joke in because I
yeah,
thought it was funny.
it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
More like 6 hours actually, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess realistically, stuff like Isles of the Emberdark is not going to exist in 10 out of 10 quality because Sanderson can only write so much. And I mean, we know he puts out a ton of stuff, but this, the quantity at some point it comes at a cost. And I guess I'm fine filling in the corners of the Cosmere with stuff that's like a 5.5 out of 10, which is probably how I'd rate this one. Like this is not by any means any one of my favorite Cosmere books, but we got a lot of interesting details. I think it set us up well for future happenings. So I'm fine with it. I'm not gonna like burn the book or anything. It was not my favorite. I think there were some deficiencies to it. But, I mean, Ben loved it, so what do I know?
All right. Well, yeah. Fair enough. So if we average all
Yeah,
our scores together, 5.5, 6.5, and 8, what have been given? I don't know. So
you give it an A.
around
Yeah.
so around
So
six and a half.
I think we get to 21 out of 30. So we're looking at
7.
7 out of 10.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Hmm. 7 out of 10 seems to be the default Fantology rating for a lot of things.
All
All
right.
right. Well, good luck to the Eokin in their next 100 years or so of time where they're not tampered with. I did think that was an interesting end to the story, and I'm interested to see what happens with
Yeah,
them. I
I
hope
think
we, yeah,
introducing like navigators of the Cosmere is pretty cool. Like people that
yeah,
can navigate the depths of the Cosmere. That's a pretty cool ending to get to. Just gonna
yeah,
say.
yeah. I think lots of interesting bits to pick up for future stories, and lots of interesting bits to get to in the current story.
Nice. Okay. All
Cool.
right. Thanks, Steven.
All right, thanks, Josh. If you like Fantology, you can join our Discord and chat with us more about Brandon's stuff or about, a ton of other authors. Invites to join our Discord are going to be on the episode description below. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.